I tell them that Nairobi is the New York City of East Africa. The plush and serene suburbs are right down the street from nightlife every day of the week. And Nairobi has that. And culturally, it's the epicenter of East Africa. So you have cultures from all over the world here, which is just like New York City. So, for instance, I have a friend who has a Jamaican restaurant right down the road from here.
I've seen a Vietnamese street food restaurant too.
Exactly.
Everybody's here.
So there's really you can get every food here. Economically, I mean, that's where Nairobi kills it, even compared to other African countries. Economically here, the cost of living and the quality of living can't be beat. It just can't.
Yeah.
What's up, my beautiful people? How are you? I hope you're doing good wherever you are. So today, as you can see, we are recording this video outdoors, outside, under this beautiful African weather just before sunset. Okay, so in today's video, I want us to talk a little bit about my brothers, the African Americans or the Black Americans, if you like to call them so. So, what about African Americans? You know, and one thing I came to realize is there is a big disconnect. Actually, there is an existing very big disconnect between uh, African Americans and Africans. Of course, this should not be debated that we all are really brothers, but the system that we have in place has actually drawn a disconnect, a very strong disconnect between us. Of course, to our disadvantage as Black people, as a Black culture, and of course to the disadvantage of the imperialists or of whoever that the division is benefiting, because obviously someone is reaping from brothers um, hating each other, setting up brothers against themselves, against one another. Now, before we spin so much about this, before we speculate so much about this, first of all, I want us to agree that in the recent past, in the recent years, there's been this mass migration, um, uh, of actually permanent relocation of Black people, of African Americans from the diaspora moving back into the continent of Africa, or moving back to the motherland to stay, to permanently reside, to permanently seek residence in the continent. And of course, there are many reasons that factor in to why this is happening, and this will continue to happen. Just a few of them being, of course, running away from discrimination and racial discrimination. That is probably the obvious one. Another one could be seeking greener pastures, of course. And you might think like, people are moving to America to seek greener pastures. Africans are leaving Africa through any means to seek greener pastures in America, in Europe. How comes you say that? And of course, yes, because they're seeking greener pastures because, as we know, people always, people from a different geographical location, even within the continent of Africa, even within any given country in Africa, once you move to a different geographical location, there are always high chances that you notice something that the locals do not actually notice in terms of a business opportunity, so on and so forth, or just coming in with a new perspective, new ways of doing things, and new knowledge, and using that to foster economic growth, and of course That is one of the reasons. It goes without saying that I personally really believe in the relocation, in fact, permanent relocation of Black people into the continent of Africa for some reasons. But before we speculate so much on this, I'd love us to, it's always good to hear from the host's mouth. So, let's watch a few short clips here, and then at the end we can continue with this discussion. So here is the video.
Now, one thing I like about living in Kenya, as I said before, not only can you live luxury for a fraction of the cost, you can enjoy a luxury lifestyle. There's upscale events like you guys have seen me go to polo games. There's golf courses here. You know, there's a lot of stuff that you can do in Kenya. Like if you come to Kenya and you decide to live here, you will not have to downgrade your lifestyle just because you're in Africa. I can guarantee you everything that you can find in America is here in Kenya. What drew you to come here initially?
The desire to be somewhere where I fit in a little bit. I had been in Argentina and I'd been in America for a long time, and I spent some time over in Paris and the Caribbean, all these different places, but I never really felt like I fit in. You know, I would be stared at everywhere I go, which is, I still get stared at here. But the difference is, one, I sort of look Kenyan, and two, the reason people are staring at me, it's not just people, it's mostly women.
Yeah, yeah.
As I walk around, they are bold.
Yes, very bold.
Giving me the eyeballs everywhere I go.
Okay, so this is what I wanted us to really factor in on. It is the point of the disconnect between people in Africa and people and Black people outside of the continent of Africa. So we know that the divide and rule tactic is a tactic that the white people have used against Black people for centuries, and it's such a successful tactic that is exactly the reason of this disconnect. Now, I'm going to tell you a short story about this lady, an African American who actually moved and permanently relocated with the family to live in Kenya. And so, just to illustrate about this kind of disconnect. So, uh, when Black people are outside of the continent, of course, propaganda is going to be spun around and sold to them of how Africa is a bad place, is an inhabitable place, is a dangerous place, is a backward place, is an uncivilized place. And the funny bit is the narrative that the same person brings to the Black people now in the motherland is how the Black people, the Black culture outside of the continent is not original, does not recognize Africa, that they do not love Africa, they do not want to come back to the motherland, so on and so forth. So now we are set up against one another. We think that the Black people in America, in the Caribbeans, in South America, or even in Europe, don't actually like people, don't actually love the continent of Africa. While the Black people in the diaspora, yeah, outside of the continent, and especially in America, actually think that this the continent of Africa is an inhabitable place. Is a place that they are so lucky uh, not to be in Africa. But all those are lies that are actually meant to divide us. To continuously draw that dividing line, so we never come together and become one formidable force. And so one time I happened to attend this conference that was being hosted by actually a community of black Americans or African Americans who have actually moved to stay permanently in Nairobi. Nairobi is the capital city of Kenya, and actually this was meant to invite other African Americans to consider moving to Africa, to Kenya, to any other country in Africa, and just to counter the false narrative. Now, so this lady tells me, we get to sit down, and they tell me she moved to stay in Nairobi a few 2 3 years ago, and she's managed to acquire her permanent residence, and she's loving it, totally loving it in Kenya. And so I begin to ask her, how was the journey? How did you transition? How did you acculturate? How do you find Kenya and Africa at large? And what is it? What is the narrative that our brothers have um, about Africa from outside? And something shocks me. The story she tells me shocks me. So she tells me before she actually decided, even thought in her mind, to move to the continent of Africa.
Okay, sorry, the sun had set and I had to adjust my lighting. Now, so what she tells me is before she ever thought about moving to the continent of Africa, even to just visit, all she knew about Africa was a very, very uncivilized and undeveloped place that she probably could not survive in. So this was always the narrative in her head for the longest time. She tells me until one of her friends happened to go to Ghana. So when her friend was in Ghana, they used to talk, and she used to wonder, oh, how comes you're able to communicate when you're in Africa? Remember, the lady herself is an African American, and her friend is as well, but her friend is in Ghana. So she's like, yeah, so you are able to use a mobile phone and a computer in Africa? And the other friend is like, yes. And the friend would take pictures of them having fun. So the friend would send her pictures of her having fun and good family time in Ghana, and she would be surprised. So you have malls in Ghana? And the friend would be, yes, we do have malls. And also there are places to have fun in family time. There are amusement parks for the kids, and a friend would be, like here the pictures and the videos, and we're having a lot of fun. So it was until that moment she really had to, she was surprised and shocked beyond her story, the story that lingered in her head for all that time, and she wanted to now really seek the truth, to find the truth, because that the narrative she has been told about Africa, clearly she could see, is not adding up, is not true. And so she moved to Ghana as well to visit, and later on moved across a few countries here and there in Africa. And she finally decided to settle in Kenya and start a life and bring her family, and are doing good. And she says she's so happy to be in Kenya, and she actually says she wishes she had known this from a long time ago. She would have long uh, made that decisive move of relocating back to the motherland. That's how much the disconnect is in between brothers and sisters, in between brothers and brothers. uh, that we have to find out the truth by ourselves, because the narrative that is out there is meant to divide the black people. Now, I really believe in black people, maybe even if just not permanently relocating, but once in their lifetime need to move to, an African country of their choice, or many of the countries, if they can, just to really appreciate what Africa is like, in that honest truth, without the biases of the story that is, of the propaganda and the lies. Um, it is also very important that my sisters and brothers, African Americans, try to move back, to even just get in touch with their history, with the land of their ancestors. Um, you see, then I came to realize something. So, you see, in Africa, sometimes we might talk about racism and so on and so forth, but how much does it really hit us in a continent? How much do we really, experience that firsthand? Maybe we see it, we hear about it, we watch that on TV and on movies, but we might not exactly in the continent of Africa experience it as much or firsthand like our brothers and sisters in the diaspora, in those white dominated communities, uh, and then we really don't understand how much our brothers now back in the continent, then because we can't really relate exactly, we don't actually we can't really understand what those people go through, even when they come and tell us. Do you know, I just came to realize, once you start acquiring interest in geopolitics, in Pan-Africanism, and in matters black culture, is when you begin to realize the truth. One of the reasons why I personally always advocate for black people to, in their life, once in their lifetime, be able to just come and feel what it is like to be in Africa, is just to be able to wake up one morning and you don't have to be conscious that you're black. You don't have to remember to think about it, just wake up and not have to think about your skin color, because it doesn't matter, because it won't matter, because it won't attract any attention. But how many people, especially most people that are not interested in such things in Africa, really understand that? Because in Africa, people wake up and go about their business as usual, and people do, you do not even know that you're black. You don't even know about your skin color. You don't have an idea what color is your skin. So racism is not a thing that people in the continent actually, unless you go deep down the rat hole to find out yourself, like I do and a few other people, but it is not a thing that people relate. People might be, yes, they know, but do they really relate? Do they know that what our brothers go through is being conscious of your skin color every single day, waking up and knowing that I am a black person and it matters in one or two, things. So I really believe that it is an advocate that it is high time, if you are watching this outside the continent of Africa, plan to visit a place that has a black majority, and it could probably just be Africa. Learn something, and if possible, try to, even find your African roots. Where did you come from, you know? And while I am Kenyan, I do not really think I want to say that, you know, please just come to Kenya. Kenya is the best, or, you know, but many African countries are the same and are good and are stable, unlike what you're being told. You can think of any country of your choice and just visit for once, try to learn, try to stay with those people, and just to try to connect with your motherland. Yeah, so that is what I had for you in this short or long video. Please add your voice to this in the comments if you have something to say. Like and share this video. And if you haven't subscribed to our channel, please go ahead and subscribe to this channel. Until next time, see you in the next video. One love.